Hello, this is Jingo. In the previous video, we set up our WebSpatial project. However, to start seeing our app in the Apple Vision Pro simulator, we had to run two really long commands. And we don't want to do that. So in this video, I will show you how to avoid that and run in the Apple Vision Pro simulator efficiently. So to get started, we want to go to our package.json file, and we want to create two new NPM scripts. The first one, let's call it start AVP. So we know when we run that command, we will start our Apple Vision Pro server. And the value we want for that command is xr_env equals AVP. And the last time we used NPM run dev over here. But we have defined that NPM run dev is basically the same as v. So we're going to replace NPM run dev as v. And this step will actually become useful in a later portion of this tutorial. And for our second command, we want to do simulate AVP. And the value for that will be, again, the cursor is smart enough to suggest me, which will be npx WebSpatial builder run -- base equals the server that we will boot up. So let's actually run those two commands, make sure they work. So let's run npm run start AVP. There is some issue in here. Let's see. Oh, that is just because I didn't save the package.json file. Make sure to save it. And then let's run it again. And now we have the server spawned. And as you can see, the server is the same as the server that we have defined over here. And let's create a new terminal and let's run npm run simulate AVP. This will actually bundle our app and then launch in the Apple Vision Pro simulator. It's a bit slow, it takes some time, but we're not done yet. The issue right now is that we're exposing our dev server in the package.json. And yeah, here the app is loading. We're exposing it in the package.json, and that's not really a good practice. The problem with this approach is that imagine you're working with other developers, and each one of you might have a different preference for the local dev server. So having a predefined local dev server won't really work for everyone. And the second issue is that in the future, you might have a production server, which is way more sensitive to include in the package.json file. So what we really want to do is we want to have an environment variable that we can store our dev server or in the future production server in there. And then we can reference that environment variable when we run the simulate AVP script. So to do that, actually before doing that, let me go back to here. As you can see, the app is launched in the Apple Vision Pro simulator. Our initial attempt of the script is working. So let's go back here. And what we need to do to set up the environment variable is we need to install two additional packages. So the first one will be, let's just run npm install. The first one will be .env, and second will be .env-cli. And we want to install those as dev dependencies. So we -D, and let's run this command, which will install those two packages that we need. And after doing that, let's go to the root of our project. Let's create a new file called .env.local. This is, if I can spell it correctly, let me edit that real quick. .env.local. This is one of those files that will be ignored by Git because we have this .local in the git ignore file. And in this .env.local, we wanna set an environment variable. We're gonna call it xr dev server. So we know this is our xr AVP dev server, and we want to give it the value. The value will be the same as what we have over here. So the local host 5173. Let's save it. And we want to refer to this environment variable when we run the simulate AVP command. And to do that, actually, let me copy this command this time, because this command is a little bit long to type. So this command will be .env -e.env.local -sh-c and the WebSpatial command that we had before. Cool. And again, over here, we used to have the localhost server, but this time, because we're using .env command line tool, we want to use our environment variable. So we can replace the localhost server with the environment variable that we just defined. As you can see, this is the original server we have, and this will be the environment variable that we can refer to. And just to prove to you that this is working, let's run the server again. Actually, before I do that, let's quit this and uninstall so we know we have a new install this time when we run this command. Run simulate AVP again takes a second to launch. Okay, actually this time it's much quicker because the second time we're running this exact same command, and we can see our app in the Apple Vision Pro simulator. We're still not done yet. We have one more thing to do. Let me actually stop the dev server here and let me run AVP run dev. And you might have figured that 5173 is the default Vite server or default server for any Vite project. If we have multiple Vite projects running at the same time, the server will be different. So this time, let me run NPM run start AVP command. As you can see, this time we have 5174 port. But like in our environment variable, we're defining 5173. So every time when this port change, we have to go back to the environment local file to change the port again. So this time I have to change it to 5174. This is just very annoying. So what we really want to do is we want to tell Vite or tell WebSpatial SDK, when I run those commands or when I spawn a WebSpatial server, I want it to run as its exact port every time. And we can do this by, again, setting another environment variable. Let's call this environment variable xr_dev_port. And for the sake of this example, I'll just use 4321. I just like the number, it's easy to remember. So let's do xr port 4321. And let's go back to the package.json. And for start AVP command, again, here is why using Vite becomes useful, is that we can just use --port, and we can refer to, we can say 4321 here, but we have set up the environment variable, so we want to use that. So that will be $xr_dev_port. And again, we want to use the .env command line tool to run this. So let's set that up. And that's the single quotation mark here. Cool. And just let's confirm it's working. Let's run this server again. Cool. And as you can see, this time the port is 4321, just as what we defined. And however, the actual dev server we have is still 5174. So to address that, let's change this number to use the variable as well. So this will be actual dev port. And this time, let's keep the Apple Vision Pro server running, and let's go to here and run npm run simulate AVP, and this time it will spawn a new instance. Let me again uninstall the previous deployment and deploy again to make sure that everything is working correctly. And again, it will take a while, but this is essentially the setup that the server will always run at 4321, and we only need to run npm run start AVP and npm run simulate AVP to see our app in the Apple Vision Pro. And as you just probably saw it over here, everything is working correctly. So that would be it. And thank you so much for watching. If you think this is helpful, please give my video a like. I appreciate your help, and I will see you in my next video.